3 years ago, I was in a long-distance relationship with a younger guy named Peter. He was 17 at the time, and I had just turned 19. Peter was not a nice person, to say the least. He was constantly rude, not only towards me, but also everyone around me. When I couldn't take it anymore, I broke up with him and moved on. One day after the breakup, he wanted to get back his things. I texted him a list of everything he had left in my apartment, which he confirmed. We also scheduled for him to stop by my apartment around 3 p.m. the following Thursday. I had no intention of letting him back into my home, given his sudden mood swings after finding out about my new relationship. I didn't feel safe being alone with him. Even though I had blocked him on Facebook, he somehow knew I was in a new relationship, which raised a major red flag for me and my boyfriend. While my boyfriend and I were walking home from school on Thursday, my phone rang. It was Peter. He was furious, yelling that he'd been waiting at the train station for over an hour. I reluctantly agreed to meet him there to return his belongings, as he insisted on catching a train. My boyfriend walked with me to the train station, but when we got there, we were met with a chilling emptiness. There were plenty of alleyways around, making it hard to tell who might be lurking, and then I got a text from Peter saying he could see us, but he wouldn't come out of hiding as long as my boyfriend was around. I left his stuff on a bench at the train station, replying that I wasn't interested in meeting face to face. I might have seemed calm, but inside I was shaking, and my boyfriend was furious over this whole situation. On our way home, I received another text. This time he mentioned leaving a gift for me in my mailbox. This freaked us out even more because it hinted he might have been waiting for us at my place. It seemed like he'd been tailing us from the train station to my apartment, but when we got home, there was no sign of him, just a bill in the mailbox. By then we figured that he was acting out of spite, so we ignored the flood of texts and calls that kept coming in throughout the day. Not long after things seemed to settle down, I received a call from my ex's older brother. He was worried about Peter, who had disappeared with one of his firearms. I hadn't seen or heard from him, so I brushed it off as another one of his childish acts. Later that day, as I was out grocery shopping, my boyfriend spotted police officers near the basement staircase of my apartment. The next day, my boyfriend's mom got in touch with us. She had come across a newspaper article that described an unidentified young man from Pete's town who had been arrested for attempting a break-in where I lived. He was armed with a knife, a gas pistol, and lighter fluid. In the article, he claimed he wasn't there to rob the place, but just to visit his ex, presumably me. I contacted the police and discovered Peter had a duffel bag stashed with a mask, fake papers, and a wig. He had thrown the bag down the staircase around 4 p.m. before jumping a fence and trying to enter the front door. My boyfriend had left the front door at the same time my ex was hiding right beside it, armed. I've never been so freaked out in my life. Unfortunately, my ex was never charged with anything because he was a minor. He has a father with a military background and the financial resources. I met Oscar online when I was 18, and we started dating. But then things took a dark turn quickly. He was insanely jealous, controlling, and abusive. It was a year-long nightmare. Each attempt to leave him was met with threats to hurt me or my family. He would sexually assault and purposely try to impregnate me or threaten to commit suicide. He would constantly stalk and harass me until I surrendered. I finally reached my breaking point and decided I wouldn't go back no matter what. He started relentlessly calling my workplace, causing me serious trouble. He then pulled the same stunt at my house, forcing me to unplug the phone line. He texted to promise he was going to commit suicide if I didn't go back to him. Instead of giving in, I called his mom at work and told her about it. She got a hold of him and insisted I must have misunderstood because he seemed perfectly fine. The next day I was at home and Oscar was calling me repeatedly, but I declined every call. Suddenly, I heard the familiar sound of his car outside, and my phone showed another incoming call from him. I let it go to voicemail as I peeked through the blinds to check. This time, he's parked right in front of my house. My phone started ringing again, and trying to get him to stop calling, I answered it. He wanted me to come outside. I explained that I didn't want to see him, but he was insistent. He claimed he felt remorseful about how everything had gone, and he wanted to make a genuine apology. He also wanted to give me something he had made before we broke up. He assured me that it would be the last time I'd see or hear from him. He just wanted a proper goodbye. I stepped outside and took a seat in the passenger side of his car, leaving the door open and my legs outside just as a precaution. He had brought a bouquet of flowers and a stack of DVD cases, each one filled with seasons of my favorite TV show. We talked for a moment, but then my cell phone rang. It was a guy from work, and foolishly, I answered it, having a brief conversation for less than 30 seconds. As soon as I hung up, Oscar's eyes filled with fury, and he bombarded me with questions about the caller. Before I could respond, he slammed on the accelerator, and the car flew down the street with my door wide open. I quickly pulled my legs inside and started screaming for him to stop. He completely ignored me. When he slowed down at intersections, I tried to jump out, but he grabbed my clothes to keep me in and started making sharp left turns around the neighborhood, forcing my door to swing shut. I tried to open the door again, but he kept hitting the automatic locks to stop me. He was speeding through my town at double the speed limit, and I was hoping a police officer would pull him over, but he managed to reach the highway. I kept looking at the speedometer, now going over 100 miles per hour. It was dark outside, but I still had my phone, so I tried to dial 911. As I pressed the numbers with my hand hidden down the side of my seat by my window, Oscar noticed what I was doing and started swerving while trying to grab my phone. He managed to snatch it, rolled down his window, and threw my phone out. As he rolled up the window, he muttered, "If I can't have you, no one will." My heart sank. I started screaming for help and banging on the windows, but Oscar had tinted windows that were so dark that I probably wouldn't have been seen even in broad daylight. Oscar had a close friend named Jose, and I learned that Jose had supposedly fled from Puerto Rico, possibly for murder. Oscar was now heading towards Jose's place. I knew that Jose was the type of person who'd do anything for Oscar, with no moral restrictions. While I got along with Jose, I also realized he had no loyalty to me. He was only friendly to me as long as I was connected to Oscar. I had to act quickly. I told Oscar that I loved him and wished we could be together, but his actions made it clear that he didn't care about what I wanted. That I was considering giving him another chance when I saw the gifts, but his refusal to take me home was making me second-guess my decision. Oscar exited the highway at Jose's off-ramp and told me that he did care about what I wanted. He asked if he still had a chance with me if he turned around right now. I hesitated a bit, trying not to sound too enthusiastic, and said that I thought we could probably work it out. Oscar made a U-turn, headed back in the direction of my house. The rest of the ride was tense. When we made it back to my house, he finally let me out of the car without stopping me. I got out, taking the flowers and the DVD with me, and waved to him before walking into my house. Once inside, I walked straight to the garbage bin and threw everything away. Then I collapsed on my couch, trembling. Ultimately, I was so grateful to have made it home alive. The next day, I went to the police station and filed a restraining order against him. A few years later, he was jailed for other heinous crimes and sentenced to 60 years in prison. It was only then I truly felt safe. He's definitely where he belongs.